Hello, we're John and Elizabeth. We're sat alongside in Yarmouth, and although it doesn't feel like it at the moment, we are in many respects hiding from the weather that's just about to come through. We're going to stay here for 24 hours, but I thought it would be useful just to walk through the process that we do for looking at the weather, mostly because it's important that the two of us can communicate with each other about what we're expecting to see. We have a little bit of a process that we go through. So step one, 4 or 5 days out, maybe 3 or 4 days out, we're looking at the Synoptic charts to get a sense of what the big picture weather is. A little bit closer to the time, maybe 24 hours, 48 hours, we're looking at the Inshore weather's forecast. Step 3, we look at the tides and the land masses where we're going to be sailing to see how that's going to be impact the weather's going to impact that. And then the last thing we're doing when we're actually doing the plan that we're doing is looking at the barometer, the wind, the clouds, just in order to get a sense that that we're seeing what we're expecting to see, and if not, why not? This looks at those things in a little bit more detail. I hope you enjoy this episode.
Thank you.
The first thing we do, as I said, was we grab the Synoptic chart. The Met Office produced these. They get them in colour and black and white, and the good thing about these is that you can step through and see how the weather is going to go through. And if I go back to 12 o'clock today, what we're going to see there is almost textbook passage of fronts. If I have a look at these things need a little bit of reading, and books like this, the RYA weather book, are great for that, because what it then does is it explains just exactly how to read and interpret that chart. But there's a lot of help online that goes with it. But that is the first step, and having a look at that gives you a good sense of the big handfuls of weather that you're going to see. So the next step, and this is 24 hours out, is to look at the Inshore waters forecast. That again is produced by the Met Office. It looks a bit like that. It gives you an idea, and as you can see, there's a red line all the way around the UK. There's a fair bit of weather happening at the moment. But then you select the area that you're in. We're in Celsius-Bilter Lyme Regis, number 7 there. And that shows the 24-hour weather forecast, and what it's saying there is northwest 2 to 4, going southwest, increasing all the way up to an 8, and that's what we're hiding from for the next 24 hours. Not that sailing in the Solent is hard work, is in any way, shape or form dangerous. It's just, well, why would you if you didn't have to? You might reasonably say at this point, well, you seem to have done all of this connected to the internet, and when you're a bit further or a bit more remote, that doesn't happen. Certainly even just crossing Lyme Bay, you will lose all of these sorts of things. So what are the fallback modes? Well, the Almanac has this really useful page here which indicates the sea state and allows you to collect the shipping forecasts, which will have the general synopsis, the forecast for each area, as well as what's happening at the coastal stations. And you can get quite practiced at drawing up your own weather chart by listening to the general synopsis, plotting the lows, indicating where the flows might be, and tracking these things on the chart. Some people I know record the shipping forecast so they can do it nice and slowly, but you can get quite practiced at it. But that then gives it to you, and you get 4 of these every 24 hours at the time. So just before 1 o'clock in the morning, just before 6, just at midday, and just before 6 again in the evening. And you can plot those, and that gives you that synoptic. You don't get the picture. You have to draw the picture yourself, but you get all the information to be able to draw the picture, which is helpful. As far as the Inshore waters forecasts are concerned, those are repeated by the Coast Guard every 3 hours or so, and there's a page in here. This is the broadcast of the shipping and inshore waters forecast by the Coast Guard, and you get the areas that you're interested in and the timings. One of the things I would suggest, in particular if you're not likely to get one on the internet, is to set yourself an alarm and listen to it every 3 hours, because you'll hear where there has been a change. Something else I'd suggest you invest a little bit of time and effort into is understanding really quite precisely what the language used in the weather forecasts means. They don't use the language casually. It has really, really clear meanings. So, for example, and very easy to understand, if you look at the weather forecast and the Beaufort scales and terminology, you have what the wind speeds are and the description and the probable wave height. That gets really helpful. Similarly, there are images of what those conditions look like, and similarly you also then start to get these descriptions here, the terms used, exactly what they mean and how to interpret them. It will make your understanding of the weather forecast much better.
No matter how accurate the inshore forecast is, it's important to realise that there's 19 areas around the UK and it covers up to 12 miles offshore. So it's a forecast for a large area and doesn't really take into account the tidal streams that you're going to see, obviously, nor does it take into account the how close or not close you're going to be to land and whether or not you're going to see a big wind shadow or indeed a speeding up round a headland. Similarly, where the tide runs quite strong, for example in the Needles Channel, a favourable tide can make your sea state look one sea state less, unfavourable one sea state more. So when you couple the effect of the tide with the effect of sheltering round headlands, you can see that even within one weather forecast you could be up or down a couple of points on the Beaufort wind scale. That makes a lot of difference sailing. There are a lot of online resources and everybody's got their favourite, whether it be for wind or tide or charting. I've started to use this eoceanic.com website. It looks like an open source thing. I've only just started. I'd be really keen to know what other people think of it if they get a chance to have a look at it. Every boat should have a barometer. I've got one on my watch and we monitor it every hour. It really does give you a good indication of where the actual wind is. And on our recent trip back from the West Country, we came round Portland. We had 2 reefs in the main, but as we came round Portland Bill itself, the sea state flattened out a fair bit and we were able to take the reef out, and we knew the wind wasn't due to increase as well.
So if I may, just to recap, we have a 4-stage process. 1, look at the synoptic chart, understand in big handfuls what's likely to happen, and that should shape your passage plan. As you get closer to it, pay close attention to the inshore forecast, whether you're getting that on the internet or over the radio. When you get to the idea of having a plan, then compare that against the geography and the tides that you're going to see. Understand what it is you're looking at, what it means, and compare what was forecast to what you're seeing. That will give you a good sense of whether the weather has moved faster or more slowly than you were expecting, and therefore what's going to happen next. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching.